Hi, this is Claudia Filos with the Center for Linux Studies, and I'm delighted to be joined here today by Keith Stone. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Claudia. Always good to be here.
Yeah, I know Greg is experiencing some unexpected conflicts, so he may join us or he may not. But right now we're going to move ahead, and we're going to talk about the hour 7 discussion question that was raised for our community. Why don't I take a look and just read that for us so that everyone's up to date. So here's the question that was posed. In traditional societies, ritual correctness is normally equated with moral correctness. Suppose that you accept this idea. In that case, do you think that the cremation of Patroklos is handled by Achilles in a ritually correct way? What do you think are some ways that we could begin to think about this question, Keith?
So I wonder, is the implication that Achilles is not morally correct? So therefore, is it even possible for him to be ritually correct?
Like, I think I think that's the question, right? Because in particular, we can, our community members have raised several issues in response to the question. Things like the human sacrifice that takes place around the funeral of Patroklos, right? And also the other biggie, which is the dragging of Hector's corpse.
Right, and that I think is where the moral incorrectness would come from prior to the funeral. Is that presumably, whereas the killing of the 12 Trojan princes, that's part of the ritual.
Oh, do you think? Yeah.
During it.
I'm not sure. I mean, for me, I feel like that aspect of human killing of humans at that site, that one to me seems like it's maybe an abomination, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, I'll be curious to see.
Well, I think that would be a ritually incorrect way of doing a funeral.
Yes.
But as far as morally incorrect, like, is there some other moral? I mean, it's probably also morally incorrect. I mean, I would definitely say that as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's an interesting question.
But right, because they're kids. They're not just like.
No. Yeah, they're kids.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just pretty gruesome. But I think one thing that's interesting is we can think about, what kind of examples can we think of? And this is the kind of thought experiment that some of our participants were thinking about. Like, if a ritual takes place and the person who's performing the ritual is somehow morally flawed, morally inappropriate, let's say, does that negate the situation? And one of our participants actually raised the question of a justice of the peace, right?
Right. Sheridan.
Remember that one?
Sheridan Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just found it here. Yeah. Take for example a justice of the peace who is vested with the authority to join people in marriage, which is a ritual, even in modern terms. Which is a question, I would say. But assume further that this individual is extremely corrupt, foul, blasphemous, adulterous, or whatever. Does that negate the marriages that they perform? And I think it's obvious the answer in that case is no. Like, it's a function that still is carried out and valid from a legal point of view. What do you think about that?
I think, well, I think to counter another example I was thinking about, it's not exactly the same kind of ritual context, but I was thinking about the way that athletes, right? Let's say you have an athlete or a team that has participated in a sporting event, they win the big prize, and later it finds out, news comes out that someone was doping, let's say, and they would then lose their, do you have a reaction to that example?
Yeah, I mean, that I would say is part of, that affects the ritual of the athletic event. Like, that's, well, it's morally incorrect. It's also ritually incorrect. It's like the wrong way to do sports.
Right.
Like, the right way to do sports includes like wearing the right uniform and the right equipment, but it also includes not doping in our kind of understanding of sport. Whereas I'm thinking of unrelated kind of moral issues. Sometimes athletes are kept from playing because it's been discovered that they are abusive to those close to them. And that it's not related to their performance of the sport, but still it affects their ability to participate. Now, we don't take away prizes that they've already won because of that. I don't think.
Right. It limits their access to what happens.
Right.
I mean, I do think about the way that a certain event or certain athlete can sort of end up with an asterisk, right? Because of some issue that has been raised at a later point. So
Right.
yes, someone holds this record, but there's an asterisk, right?
And what was the deal with Pete Rose? He was a baseball player and won, like he broke a record for something. Oh man, I totally forget now.
He'll never be in the Hall of Fame, right?
But he'll never be in the Hall of Fame because he was
betting
on it. So that's not exactly to do with him like actually playing baseball. It was later, right, when he was a coach or something else.
Yeah, I think he was coach. I think you're right. Yeah.
So still, that disqualifies him, though.
Yeah. So interesting. But let's go back to the Iliad and the Odyssey and sort of this ancient Greek song culture. So I think one of the things that's different within that context is maybe the concept of pollution, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And
it's a more neutral kind of thing, and this is true in biblical understandings as well. And it's probably a pan-Mediterranean idea, broadly construed, is that pollution is it's just a fact of life. It's like dirt. Like if you get dirty, you have to clean yourself off before you can participate in a ritual, which is just like a very different understanding. For us, it's often internal, your intentions.
Okay. So in those cases, the fact of maybe going through the motions, let's say if you do the right motions, if you say the right words and you do them in public, maybe intention there is not what's important. Maybe what's going on that is polluted, could that be negated, or is the pollution still there?
I think the idea is that it's still there. Like that you can't, I mean, just to answer the question, you can't be morally incorrect and yet be ritually correct. I think.
Right.
Well,
And
I mean, that's me answering the question in one kind of quick way, but
I mean, I would agree, and I think that really points us towards the kind of overall strategy that Professor Nagy has been helping us think about in terms of making connections between myth and ritual, which is that within myth, heroes make catastrophic errors, right? And then they need to be compensated for all time through the process of ritual.
Yeah, that's one of the fundamental insights for me of this whole Heroes course, is that insight right there, and how an initial act of pollution is the basis for subsequent acts of doing the same thing but in a ritually correct way to make up for that. Right. So with Achilles, and a lot of people mention this, if we can now, I guess, maybe turn back to the posts that were made. A lot of people mentioned Achilles' dragging of Hector's body as something that polluted the subsequent ritual of the funeral, or the funeral of Patroklos, or the burning of Patroklos's body. And I guess there are a couple of things I want to say about that. One is that the act of Achilles dragging Hector's body from his chariot is morally incorrect, and it is the basis for the later athletic rituals of chariot driving. The chariot races that we talked about, I think, already in hour 7 and 8.
Exactly, yes, hour 7, big time,
the Athenian epibatic chariot races. So the Athenians are doing chariot driving, chariot racing correctly in their sport, to make up for the fact that Achilles, in this one horrible example, did it in a really wrong way. But I think that I would say that pollution is not exactly related to the performance of the funeral, of the cremation of Patroklos. The morally incorrect thing there is the killing of the 12 Trojan children, and that pollutes that ritual. And people brought that one up as well.
Yeah. So what I think we could do at this point right now is talk about sort of the key features about Hour 7 and Hour 8. I would like to contextualize them in terms of the project overall. I was just saying, for me, I feel like Hour 7 is the core of the project. Over the years, when someone has approached us and says, I just need to get a sense of what's going on, or if we just need to give them like a little nugget of content, I very often pull the intro to Hour 7, okay? Because
nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, because right now what we're dealing with is, we're really thinking about these images on coming from Greek faces, right? So the visual representation. I'm sorry, we have some work being done outside, and we also have this core concept of the same, and we're really starting to make a connection with the tomb of the hero as signaling really the meaning and function of the hero, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that duality, I think, that there's the tomb and then there's its meaning, or there's the tomb that you can see and then there's the dead hero inside.
Yes.
That kind of duality is, I think, the core of the idea of the hero.
Yeah. So you know what? Yeah, and now it all comes together for me, which is that you can almost say it in a sentence, which is that, isn't it amazing that you're dealing with a culture where the word that we translate as meaning is a tomb of a hero. It's as if all meaning comes together by thinking of the tomb of a hero. That's amazing. And I still remember how frustrating it is that the cognate of sema in Indic, gyama, which means usually it's translated as thought. You don't have as many contexts of that as you would like, at least not in that form. Other variations on that form are pretty common in the oldest levels of Indic verbal art, but it's the Greek evidence where it all comes together.
As we prepare to look forward, okay, so now our participants have been thinking about Hour 7 and Hour 8. They're just going to make a big transition now, okay, for us, because we've been thinking about the Iliad for so long. Now we're going to be joining the world of the Odyssey. Can you help us just begin to make that transition, maybe 3 minutes of just thinking about, okay, how do we want to understand approaching now a second epic? We might feel like we're starting to feel comfortable with what's happening in the Iliad. And now, I know it's kind of a joke that some people might call the Odyssey the oddity, right?
Yes, it's so true that instead of making us feel comfortable, the Odyssey can make us feel very uncomfortable about what we thought we knew, and even the main character. I'm trying not to use the word hero because I would be defaulting to sort of post-classical uses of the word hero, but the main character is so different from Achilles. Achilles seems at least so monolithic, so easy to figure out because of his uncompromising values. And then next thing you know, you're dealing with a multiform character who can seem to be all things to all people, who's a joiner more than a leader, or so it seems, and who, in fact, when you think about it, doesn't succeed in rescuing any of the people he leads. So if you were doing a leadership seminar and using Odysseus as the main character, it doesn't look good, does it? He sails home from Troy with a huge complement of fellow travelers, and by the time he makes it to Ithaca, he's the sole survivor. That's not a good sign. And compare that with Achilles. Okay. He's alienated. He is a loner. Many of us are tempted to judge him as being a sore loser when it comes to not having his way. But think about it. In the end, Achilles, as the hero of the Iliad, can justly be called the savior of the Achaeans, even if most of the saving in the Iliad is done by his alter ego. It's nevertheless the Achilles legacy to save the Achaeans, and in the end, he is worshipped as somebody who does save the Achaeans. You can't say that about the main character of the Odyssey. Odysseus can't save anybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's very problematic.
Right. And so what I love about making this transition right now to the Odyssey, just as we were thinking about getting things right or wrong, which is that I think it's such a good moment to say, okay, well, Odysseus is going to struggle in all these ways, and we're going to see examples of rituals over and over again. But what we see in the Odyssey may not be the example of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
right?
but, exactly.
But Keith, I saw that you had a comment.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, in a way, Odysseus does save the Achaeans, but it's not really told in the Iliad or the. I mean, it's mentioned in the Odyssey, but he doesn't get credit for it. That's not his legacy.
You mean
Achilles,
Troy? Is that what you?
He saves the Achaeans by. I mean, he wins the war at Troy. It's his device that the Trojan.
You're right.
It's Metis versus BA. Achilles is.
Yeah.
Right? Greg, this is your argument.
Well, but it's your argument and Keith's argument as well. So yeah, I can see that he has the winning formula, but maybe I'm thinking too much of these courses that are proliferating around our campuses, centered on leadership and successful leadership. And I think, well, when it comes to the people that he led personally to Troy,
oh yeah, no, totally agree with you.
He loses all of those people, and you're right that in the end, he has the winning formula for capturing Troy, but
it's not any good for his own people, who he should be taking back to.
Exactly,
and then back to Ithaca.
And then even when he gets home, he slaughters most of the elites on his own island,
right?
because they've been courting his wife, and what do you have on your hands but a blood feud, and or let's say it in Italian, a vendetta. And it requires divine intervention. That's Athena. You say, all right, this is going to stop now. And that's the only way even peace, internal peace, is achieved in Ithaca. I know I'm seemingly giving you a very negative view of Odysseus. It's also true, and I'll be the first to say it, and I do say it in my introduction to Hour 9, that in another way, he is also the ideal king, because if you want to see how a king reestablishes his own power after the power has disintegrated, then Odysseus would be a good model. And he's also a good model for any kind of revenge story, because he certainly has his revenge. And you can also say, well, his killing of the suitors is one of the most successful maneuvers in outsmarting all your enemies and killing them all at once. So again, that's his many-sidedness. And going back to Claudia's point about how we think we understand what the ancient Greek hero is after living through the Iliad, and now we live through the Odyssey, which means you have to relive the Trojan War a little bit, in fact, quite a bit. Then you have to have all of these confrontations with monsters and all kinds of cosmic destabilization. And then you finally have a restabilization and a picture of an ideal marriage. There's just a lot on our plate, and I can only agree with you two, Claudia and Keith, that the Odyssey just gives us such a panorama of not just the heroic world, but the world as it's likely to morph from heroic to post-heroic.